not introduce Roger's backup and introduce myself. From Roger Funk from Dallas, Texas. And we are cold and 20-degree one day and then 65 the next. And so it all depends on which side of the bed that I get out of. With that said, I wish I could transmute myself, but I guess I can't. Then I'll just hand it over to Jimmy.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm going to share the screen so I can start the introduction. I want to welcome everybody to online presenters tonight, especially our two guests. This meeting will be recorded. Our policy is we record the video of the meeting for and stills and excerpts from the video that we may use by the club for PR and social media purposes. And we can take exceptions if you don't want to appear on the video. So contact David if you want to not be shown on the video. This club is for learning better webinar and online event virtual presentation. That's the interest of many of the members here, and that's what the club was chartered to do. We do use Zoom, but it's used inside Ring Central, a more extensive program that has more features than just Zoom. Some online meeting tips. Use a headset or earbuds to prevent feedback from your microphone. Mute yourself when you're not speaking so we don't hear distractive noises. You can also mute and unmute your video if you're going to do anything visually distractive, such as from the chair, you might have to cough or sneeze. You can always mute it off for just a few seconds. The control buttons are in the lower left-hand corner of the screen for muting the microphone and the video. You also have a choice between speaker view and gallery view. The gallery view is where you see everybody on the screen. Speaker view is you primarily see the speaker in one large and maybe 4 or 5, or depending if you know how to expand it, the other avatars in smaller windows along the side. Please keep aware of who the timer is. So you keep track of your time when you're speaking. That's Elaine tonight. It's also a good idea to use your own timing device as a backup. Make sure you locate Elaine, you know who it is, and you can find her to watch the time. If you need an audible cue from Elaine, let her know. It's not automatic, so she can accommodate some kind of audible sound to signal the green, yellow, and red if you need it. And if anybody wants to join or our guests want to join, you can click on the join button on our website, and that'll open up a dialogue for you to fill out. Our club typically requires 6 Toastmasters speeches to be completed. But we do make exceptions for people that may have other speaking experience outside of Toastmasters. In that case, we just ask you to make a 1 to 2 minute table topics type speech or why you want to join the club. Now I'll turn it back over to our Toastmaster of the evening, who is Peggy Clusser. Peggy.
Yeah. Thank you, Jimmy. I'd like to start off by welcoming everybody, especially our 2 guests, and start out with giving the theme of the day. The theme of the day today is taking charge of change. The reason that I chose that as the theme of the day is because I feel like this is the last meeting in January, and I guess in honor of that, all of us tend to make resolutions or changes, as it may be. And I think that if we can take charge of those changes, we can really make a difference in our lives and the lives of others. And that's why I chose that as the theme of the day, kind of to help us wrap up and get on board with any changes or resolutions that we might make for the new year. And going forward, I'd like to go over each of the supporting roles and have each person that signed up for the role introduce themselves and just give a short description of what you'll be doing during the meeting. So first up, we have the all counter, Jimmy Dent. Jimmy, can you give us a short description of what you'll be doing?
Sure. I'll be listening to everybody anytime you talk for any filler words you might use, like so, well. And I'll be keeping track of how many times you do it. And if I can detect it, I'll try to keep track of if you have a certain pattern of when you use those. And I'll give a report at the end of the meeting.
Okay, thanks, Jimmy. Next, we have as timer, Elaine Nyberding. Elaine, can you explain what you do as the timer?
Hi there. I'm just pleased as punch to be timing y'all tonight. I'll be timing speakers. I'll be timing table topics, respondents. I will be timing evaluators and watching the overall timing of the evening. So be sure to watch me. I will have a colored background up. And if you are a speaker and want an audible timer, could you say that now?
It looks like Teresa.
Teresa, okay. You're good.
I'm sorry, I raised my hand that I'm a speaker,
okay.
but I do not need an audible timing, I don't think.
Okay, we'll do that for you, Teresa. Thank you. Over and out. Back to you.
Okay, thanks, Elaine. And next on the list is the watcher, or I'm sorry, the grammarian, Magda Van Ruin. Can you explain what the word of the day is to us, Magda?
Can't hear you, Magda. We can't hear you.
I think you're muted, Magda.
I know it happened last week as well. It's my mouse that's getting stuck. I am the grammarian and I'm not stuck at all. My word of the day is going really well with change, and that is the ultimate change. It's to transmute. The noun is transmutation. The verb is to transmute. And the meaning of this is to change completely into something better. In the old days, the alchemists had all kinds of minerals like lead, and they hoped to turn it into gold. So if you're going to change, make it worthwhile. Change lead into gold. And it's a very old word. It's coming from Latin, Anglo-French, and it's first used in the 14th century. I'm going to listen to all kinds of cute little phrases as well as the word of the day.
Okay.
Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thanks, Magda. And thanks for the awesome screenshot and how you matched it up with my theme of the day also in order to match up with change and taking charge of change. And next on our list is going to be the watcher, Viviana. I'm not really going to try your last name. If you'll tell me, then I can say it.
All right. So I will be watching you today. So I will observe the meeting, your body language, slides, and other visuals. And hopefully there will be transmutation. Transmutation?
Okay, there we go. Thanks, Viviana. And next up is the vote counter, Jim Barber. Jim, can you give us an explanation of what the vote counter does?
With pleasure, Madam Toastmaster. My fellow Toastmasters, there's been some debate as to the most important role of the meeting. There is no debate. It is the vote counter. Whether you're called the supervisor of elections or the vote counter, whatever level you're at, people wait to hear what your proclamation is. As vote counter this evening, I will be transmuting popular opinion into official designations. And as far as using the word charge, I accept MasterCard, Visa, anybody that wants to sway their votes, simply send your credit card information to me and I will be happy to charge your card. Madam Toastmaster.
Thanks, Jim. That was an awesome explanation. And next on the list is the chat monitor. And as chat monitor tonight, we have Graham Carnes. Can you go ahead, Graham?
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. My job tonight is to monitor the chat. Now, one of the functions of the chat monitor is that if there's anything that comes up in the chat that you as Toastmaster need to know, I will send a copy of that to you privately. But I'll also be seeing what everybody else is saying in the chat and making sure that we're having a good time and encouraging members where required. So that's my role as chat monitor.
Okay. Thank you, Graham. And I also noticed that I think Lou had to step out for a meeting. So we may need somebody to do, oh, okay, he's back. I see you, thanks. And the next part of the meeting is going to be the prepared speeches. And then we'll go into the table topics. And the last and most important part of the meeting is going to be the evaluation. That's where we'll see how each of the speakers did based on each of the evaluators. And first up tonight, we have speaker number 1, Tracy Kawai. And let me see. Tracy is going to give her icebreaker speech tonight. And the title of her speech is Reinvention Specialist. And Tracy's time limit is 3 to 5 minutes. And Tracy has told us that this is going to be kind of a challenge for herself because she doesn't usually like to speak without a PowerPoint. So Tracy, please go ahead.
Excuse me, is for clarification for an icebreaker, is it 3 to 5 or 4 to 6?
3 to 5.
I thought it was 4 to 6.
4 to 6.
Okay. I'm sorry, 4 to 6.
Definitely 4 to 6 minutes.
Thank you. Just wanted clarification.
Okay, thanks, Lois.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. Thank you, Lois. Fellow Toastmasters, dignitaries, and guests. I am so excited because I did not even realize that this evening's topic was going to be, or the theme was going to be taking charge of change and transmutation. Because I prepared a speech, which I feel ties beautifully into that. I myself consider myself to be the original reinvention specialist. Ever since I was a little girl, I have loved to reinvent things. Clothing, jewelry. I have here a couple of items that I'm going to show you. These are a pair of earrings where I took 2 different pieces from 2 different earrings and combined them into what I think is a beautiful piece. And I did the same with this one here. I've also reinvented clothing, changing dresses into skirts. I also once had this amazing idea to go find art that was wasting away in thrift stores and partially painting over the art and then signing my name and leaving the artist's name showing and calling it Art of the Unknown. I feel that everything has its own purpose, especially people. I feel that people all have a passion and a purpose. Currently, I'm a career coach, or should I say a career transition coach. And I love helping people find their passion and purpose. Today, I'm going to share a little bit about my journey and my goals and how I help and assist other people with reaching their goals. Early on in my career, I had an incredible success. I was co-founder of the largest orthodontic practice anywhere, even to this day, that's owned by a solo practitioner. However, what I found was that that was not my passion. That was my partner's passion. So I went through my own series of reinventions. I found successes. I found a lot of failures. And I learned from both the successes and the failures. This pretty much sent me on a lifelong quest to find out what makes people successful in business. What are the attributes that they have to have in order to become successful? How do they build teams around them? How does one individual become successful and one individual not become successful? My research and all of my thoughts led me to write my own book, which is The 7 Pillars of Reinvention, Finding Your Passion and Your Purpose. And it also led me to develop my own assessment tool where I help people determine what their business DNA is. In wanting to continue my own professional development, I joined my local Toastmasters chapter because really I wanted to learn how to think on my feet. I also was speaking at the time, and I wanted to become a paid speaker, which I did, and I owe Toastmasters a lot of gratitude for that. My current goal, however, with joining online presenters is a little different. My current goal is that I'd like to become an excellent online presenter. I'd also like to start giving impromptu, unprepared speeches, just taking out my phone and talking right into Facebook Live and getting past that fear of, oh my goodness, does my hair look good? Is my makeup done? I want to just go a la natural, right to the public with impromptu speeches. I also want to fine-tune my skills so that one day I can become a public speaking coach. I find that I really enjoy this line of work. As a current career transition specialist and a train the trainer, I would have to say that in my career, I've assessed over 400 people. And what I have found is that there's a common misconception. A lot of business people feel, and a lot of professional people feel, that they have to have all the different skills to become successful. They have to be the leader, and they have to be the thinker, and they have to be the visionary, and they have to be the operations person, and they have to be the bookkeeper. They have to be everything. And quite often that isn't true. One of the things that's so important is really to know what your own highest skill set is. What is the highest use of our own time and our own talent so that we can leverage this for the best for ourselves, in our careers, in our purpose. In so doing, we can also find out who we need around us in order to be successful. Because no man is an island, especially in business. And no woman is an island, especially in business. Again, I consider myself to be the original reinvention specialist. I love taking something good and making it great. I was reading an article lately, and I was reading about Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. I was reading about Jeff Bezos. They all know how to take something good and make it something great. What about the rest of us? How do we take something good and make it something great? We have to climb upon our highest vision of ourselves. As the original reinvention specialist, I feel that it's my duty, my calling, my passion, and my purpose to help disrupt the way that professionals envision themselves in their careers in order to expand their possibilities and help them climb upon their highest vision of themselves. The more we create possibilities for ourselves, the more we can introduce our passion and our purpose into what we're doing in life, and the more we can reach our own fulfillment. Thank you so much. Toastmaster of the Day.
Thank you, Tracy. Next up on our speaker list is David Carr. David is going to do a Mastery Level 1, Mastering Fundamentals, his icebreaker speech. The title of the speech is Why I Obsess Over Video and You Should Too. And the time for David's speech is going to be 4 to 6 minutes. Madam Timer. David.
Thank you, Toastmaster of the Day. Well, I do want you to obsess over video, and I certainly obsess over video. Are you hearing me all right? I'm sorry. I just got a flash on the screen saying something, well, message from the software. If the timer could let me start over again for a second. I do want you to obsess over video, and I certainly obsess over video. I'm using this speech partly as an advertisement for the video editing workshop that I'm doing next week. Here is one of the tools of my trade. This is a smartphone. The one addition that I made recently is this is a directional microphone to help with sound pickup from across the room. And typically at a meeting of my home club, we will have this placed at the front of the room. A little clip that allows it to attach to a tripod to keep it steady. And typically my advice to whoever is doing the video recording at our meetings is don't try and be Spielberg. Don't try and to pan all over the place. Just keep it zoomed out wide and make sure you keep the speaker in the frame. But since this was billed as an icebreaker, I should confess that at some point I did want to be Spielberg. Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, somebody in that category. I wanted to be making fantastic movies. Probably the farthest I got with it in my teenage years was making animated movies. I had an 8mm camera that you could advance 1 frame at a time. And I had I believe it was an Evel Knievel action figure. It was either Evel Knievel or the $6 Million Man. And I had some modeling clay stuck to his feet so I could make him stand up, and I could make him walk around a few seconds at a time. And he would have battles with his arch nemesis, who was a robot made out of a nasal spray dispenser. With cheesy special effects, my little action figure guy could also climb the Afghan in my bedroom like it was a rope net. So it was kind of cool. I spliced together the film using actually tape. So you would make a cut, you would tape, and I have these things in my closet, and I'm afraid to run them through the projector because I'm sure the tape will break and the film will melt and it will all come apart, which is why I appreciate the magic of video editing and how it can transmute things into magic. So.
Yes, you begin thinking about William Shakespeare, to be or not to be. But for me, when I begin thinking about that phrase, to be, I think about a verse in the Bible that has challenged me for years. To be. To be.
I am B and I want to be. Good morning, distinguished Toastmasters, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests. To be or not to be was the Hamlet's dilemma. So to be what you want to be, you can be what you want to be.
Madam Contest Master, to be. To be was the name of my first pet. Tubby. Tubby was just the cutest little puppy you would ever see. He would greet you. He would walk over to you and he'd rub up next to you. And you'd sit on the couch He'd sit down and he'd jump on your lap.
If you haven't guessed, there was no Tubi. He made that all up. But once this was created as a piece of video, that particular cut was made to fit in the boundaries of what you can run on Twitter. So it's a prompt showing little excerpts of the best moments from those 3 table topics with a link to come in and see the rest. So the goal of video editing is usually subtraction. It's taking out mistakes, which is my favorite part. And yes, I have gone through and edited out individual ahs and ums to correct the record and make myself look better in retrospect. And you can do it too. So tune in next Monday. I'll be sharing more about that. But that's a little bit of why it makes me passionate, because this is a way of sharing something dynamic about the Toastmasters experience, of taking reality and translating it into magic, transmuting it into magic. And I invite you to come along. And if you are not recording your contests at your brick and mortar Toastmasters Club, you're missing a big opportunity to share the best, to share the talent that is within your club. Find a way to do it, get people comfortable with it. I'll talk about more of all of that next week.
Thank you, David. Great use of the word transmute, I think 2 or 3 times within your speech. And one thing I neglected to do last time was to give Tracy a minute on the chat box. And I guess we could do that now, take a minute for everybody to give both Tracy and David some chat feedback. So if we could start it out for a minute, Madam Timer. Thank you.
Time to resume.
Thank you, Elaine. And our next speaker is Therese Quaranta. Teresa is speaking in the Leadership Development Level 1, Mastering Fundamentals, Evaluation, and Feedback. This is her first speech from this Level 1. And the title of her speech is Habits, Cue Behavior, Reward Cycles. And Therese had made a special request for me at the beginning of the meeting. For everybody, I know we typically mute ourselves, but Therese had asked for us to unmute, I think maybe to give some feedback or maybe to participate while she's speaking. And Therese's time limit is 5 to 7 minutes. Teresa?
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Hello, fellow Toastmasters. we're going to be talking about habits. Habits being the cue, behavior, reward cycle. Once again, cue, behavior, reward. And you're all looking at me with a very big fog saying, what the heck is she talking about? Okay, let's go through just a couple of examples. Everybody, do you know Pavlov's dog experiment?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, what is the cue for this experiment?
Bell.
A bell. So a bell rings, and then what is the behavior that occurs?
Salivating.
Salivate.
The dog salivates. And then what is the reward?
It eats.
It gets food. Right. Well, there's one more piece of this experiment, and that's marked with that lightning bolt. And that occurs right after the bell rings. Does anybody know what that is? It occurs before, no, it occurs before the salivating. When the bell rings, that's when the doggy gets the dopamine hit. He gets that happy injection of drug.
Yeah.
It occurs and the bell rings, it causes this dopamine, which then causes the salivation, and then he gets the food for as a reward for that behavior. Most people think that that dopamine comes when the reward comes, but it actually comes as an anticipation of the reward. And that occurs for the whole habit cycle, regardless of what the habit is. So let's look at another one. You remember that old office water cooler? Well, they may not have it anymore, but they still do have the coffee pot. So what is the cue? What causes the behavior of going to the office water cooler?
Time of day.
How about bored?
Bored.
And if they go to the water cooler, then what do they get out of it?
Gossip.
Awesome.
Yeah, some social connection. What else do we do these days that's more in our modern world for this social connection when we get bored?
Facebook.
Facebook, yes, or Twitter, yeah, or YouTube or anything else, same thing. What's some sense of social connection? Let's look at the whole idea of this cue behavioral reward, but look at just at the cues first, and then see if you can guess where we're going to go from the cue to what the behavior and the reward is. So here's the first one. What's the cue?
A bell dinging.
The bell.
For the passenger.
Right. Or something like that in the car. So what would be the behavior that it's cueing you to do?
Fasten your seatbelt.
Right. And what's the reward?
You live.
Yes, and that annoying ringing sound goes away, right? And maybe you can actually put it in gear. So now, this is on my club's website. What's it cueing you to do?
Hit play.
Hit play, yeah. And then you hit play, what's your reward?
We see a video.
Receive video in probably 20 minutes, a half hour, maybe 2 hours later, you stop watching YouTube, right? We all know that. Okay, this came in my inbox from LinkedIn. You appeared in 4 searches this week. See all the searches. What's it cueing you to do?
Pay for the upgrade.
Click to see who did a search. Did anybody ever get a Facebook tag that said, you've been tagged on a picture? Well, who's not going to push the button to see who put a picture on? And did I look pretty? Did I look good? Okay, so let's imagine that I have a magic wand and I can give you, we're going to use those cue behavior rewards that we've just seen have all been engineered for us. We can use those same principles to engineer our own cue behavior reward system. So if I had a magic wand and I could grant you one behavior reward wish, maybe it was your New Year's resolution and it needs a little life vest thrown to it. What would that be? Now just think about it. Think what that behavior would be that you would like in your world. You got it? Okay. Well, now, What the key is, I'm going to throw you a life jacket. And the key to creating that behavior so that it actually works is make it a tiny behavior. And when I say tiny behavior, I mean so silly tiny that there's no way you can possibly not do it. Let me give you some examples of my tiny behavior that came from a bigger aspiration. For example, I wanted to floss my teeth. So I made it first a tiny behavior, and that tiny behavior was to floss one tooth. Now, who can't floss one tooth? You'd be silly to say, I can't do that, I don't have time. Come on. Okay, so after I brush my teeth, I floss one tooth. And then I smile in the mirror, see? And I tell myself how pretty it looks. Then here's another one. Here's an aspiration is to read more books. And so, you know, I'm always being distracted
6 minutes.
by podcasts and, podcasts and YouTube and everything else. So to get myself to actually read all that stack of books that I've bought, then I've decided that I'm going to read one sentence. Yes, one sentence. So my cue is when I lay in bed, I will read one sentence, and then I can identify myself to other people as, I read this book, I'm reading that book. Well, here's my really fun one. You ready? This is fun. Okay, let's hope that the sound comes in. I did this morning. I take a walk in the morning, and the hanging flab that comes out underneath your arm, I'm working on that, but I'm doing it in a tiny way. Let's see if it works. After I pee,
Red. 7 minutes.
2 arm exercises. Take that, fat. Okay, so now if you had your one wish, just remember, it is the cue behavior reward cycle. And you have to start with a teeny tiny behavior and let it grow roots. And
Deadline, 7 minutes, 30 seconds.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Okay, thank you, Teresa. That was an awesome speech that really kind of chimed in with the theme of the day. And Madam Timer, can we have 1 more minute so that everybody can give Teresa some chat feedback on her speech? And we'll just take 1 minute for that.
It is 7:39. We should be moving on ahead to Topics Master.
Okay, thanks, Elaine. Thanks to Lou also for the little bit of humor after Teresa's speech. And now I'll turn it over to Roger as the table topics master. Roger?
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. I want to first ask our two guests, Mr. Doug and Sagitha, would you two like to participate in this segment called the Table Topic Impromptu Speech? I will be throwing a question and you will have between 1 to 2 minutes to go ahead and answer that question. Are you game? Raise your hand. All right, thank you very much. They're both game. Tonight, go ahead and mute all of yourself. Please mute yourself. The theme of tonight is about change. If you type in, why is change so difficult? Why is change so hard? And you put it into Google and you will get almost 4 billion results. I'm talking about billions. However, you are a change expert. You have made change easy. How did you make change so easy? Rolando.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topic Masters. Fellow Toastmasters, most welcome guests. Good evening. Change or transmutation is not easy for us human beings because we're creatures of habits. We like to get up and do the same thing every day if we have to. But life is so boring by getting up and try to do the same thing every day, especially if you're trying to move forward or make some improvement. There is no saying you can't expect results if you keep doing the same thing over and over. So in our life, we all trying to accomplish goals. If either get promotion or having a family or every time you set a goal, expects changes to happen for you to reach that goal. Because if you keep doing the same thing over and over, you're gonna be in the same place. The only way you can make progress in life is to do something different, something better for you to move in the next phase so you can reach your goal. Back to you, Mr. Table Topic Master.
Thank you, Rolando. As he was talking about change and transmuting, I thought about all these movies that we've been having, the Transformers, the X-Men, all about transforming and transmuting. And with modern technology, with robotics and genetic altering, now human and machines are blending together and we can't really tell what's what. Now, if you can be the bionic woman, if you can be the $6 million man, what would be one thing that is so special about you? Madam Bionic Woman, our guest, Sanita.
Sorry, can you please repeat the question again?
If you are the Bionic Woman, you have a blend between robotics technology and human abilities. What would be your one special ability?
Bionic women, I'm not really getting actually, sorry.
That's okay. Don't worry, I will come back to you. I'm gonna throw this question right over to the $6 million man, Mr. Doug Small.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters. It's a pleasure to be here. As a sort of bionic man myself, with an artificial knee and some other pins in my leg, one of the things that I would really appreciate in future technology as part of my bionic situation is the ability to actually walk. That would be great for me. I feel like we take that for granted. And what I'd like to say about that with regard to transmutation and change is that change does not need to be supersonic or spectacular. Some of the most important changes are the smallest ones that we see in ourselves every day. Our physical therapy, where we move one finger, for example, a little farther, or on a diet where we eat one spoonful less of food. Our ability to be the bionic person would be to transform our normal selves and take on the weight of others to help them with their change. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Mr. $6 Million Man. Now, in the beginning of New Year, we always want to change something. We have this New Year resolution, and we're thinking about this one thing I'm going to do this year. Now, if you get the opportunity to change someone else this year, now you don't have to name that person, but I want you to think about that one person, and there's this one thing, there's that one habit you want to change of theirs. What would it be? Senita, back to you.
Okay. Thank you, Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. If there is one thing that I would change in one person, that would be my husband, and that would be his listening skills. You know, and I really, you know, have hard time, you know, like making him listen to me. He always says, I hear you, but what I want out of him is, I listen you, right? Listen, like, you know, it's just not hearing with ears. You have to listen with all your heart. And that is what I wanted him to do. So today, actually, I was just like, I have this wisdom deck of cards in which I was just, today morning, I was just praying. And then I was like, you know, please help me find a way to make my, like, you know, to make things work better for us. So just, I would want to actually pick one card for my husband, you know, kind of like, and when I picked the card, it was about like prayer. Prayer can make anything happen, you know, and that was the thing that I got. That's a message that I got today morning. And here you're asking the question, and I take this as a message from the universe that this New Year resolution of mine is going to be successful no matter what. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Since I opened up the can of worm, I'm going to ask David to delete this portion of the video, and I'm going to turn this time over first from our timer. Please let us know, did all three of our speakers qualify?
The only person who qualified in the speakers was David Carr. Both other speakers were over. So by default, you don't have to vote. David is the winner for Best Speaker. For table topics, are we done with table topics at this point?
Yes, table topic question.
Okay, all have qualified.
Great, they all qualified. Please cast your vote for the best table topic speaker to our vote counter, Jim Barber. I am handing over the control to our general evaluator, Madam Deborah.
All right, we are down to the wire on our evaluation time. So I am going to start right out with Lois. If you will give us your evaluation of Tracy, please.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Well, this is Tracy's icebreaker. Congratulations, Tracy. You did a fabulous job. I know she was nervous. The first thing she was questioning was, how do I do this without a PowerPoint? Yay! You did it. You did some things really well. Number one, you got nice and close to the screen and the camera. You weren't afraid. You had this beautiful smile. Even now, look at her. She's got this big old smile going on. You had animation. Be careful of your hands going a little too fast. Sometimes when you're on screen, it blurs, but I didn't really see a lot of that. Though I did see a lot of it right here, so we didn't get to see it all the way up here. I thought you had some really great imagery, especially when you're talking about changing jewelry. You showed us the jewelry, you brought it nice and close. Great images, something that you usually don't see on somebody that's just doing the first online presentation. For our guest, Tracy is not a first-time speaker. She has been through a number of speeches. Am I right, Tracy? And we have kind of talked on and off about what kind of an evaluation she wants. And one of the things I wanted to talk about was how you went through your transitions. And this is where I think you might be able to make a little bit of difference in your speech, because you were kind of going back and forth on your topics. I finally narrowed it down. It took me rewriting my evaluation 3 or 4 times, which I usually don't have to do. And I figured out that you transmute things, you transmute people, and then you transmuted yourself. So you started with transmuting the earrings and your clothing and talking about that. Then you talked about how you really love to transmute people and how you want them to get the career that they love, the vision, that whole bit. Then you talked about transmuting yourself, that you want to be able to do Facebook Live, that you want to be able to do presentations, impromptu speeches, public speaking coaches. You talked all about that. And then you went back to your business and talked about transmuting people again. So it didn't necessarily flow because you were going back and forth and picking out different pieces. So I encourage you to watch your speech again and realize that you could have almost taken the whole end and put it in the middle, or the second piece was transmuting yourself, then transmute people and talk about the DNA process and about the passion and the vision and all of that, and wrap it up with, so that's it. I love to reinvent things, whether it's myself, things, or people. I can't help myself. What do you reinvent? And something like that, but I did feel it was a little bit out of joint, but I liked it. Great job. Can't wait to see the next one. Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Lois. And we are ready for Lou Brown to evaluate David, please.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. David, thank you so much for conducting a speech that is so relevant to our club. Video editing. David, I really like your delivery. You have great vocal clarity, volume, and pace. We can all hear you. You very well articulate, or is it enunciate your words? Thank you for that. I really liked how you had a little bit of body language in there, which we all know is a little tough given the frame of our camera, but I caught in between taking notes a couple of good examples where I think you did some leg crawling thing with one of your action figures. And speaking of the action figure, I really liked how you shared your story with us, which was the first time you made your directorial debut. And I also like the fact that you shared with us a couple of visuals, one being the equipment that you use for your video, I guess your video making, as well as the sample that you provided, which, by the way, was that sample done using a smartphone and directional microphone? Because that was pretty awesome. I like that. I would have liked to have heard your introduction be a bit stronger. You said, I want you to obsess over video. Now, of course, we knew that from the title, that you want us to obsess over video. However, I would have liked to have something a little stronger or something with a bang. Something perhaps like, do you obsess over your hair, your clothes, food? Forget those obsessions. Obsess over video. Something, again, that is a little bit more attention grabbing and gets us right into your speech. Now, speaking of the body of the speech, I wasn't really sure where the intro ended and the content began. It seemed to kind of blend. There also, during the, sorry, I also would have liked to have heard you do a little bit about, or near the beginning, what are you going to talk about? I wasn't completely clear where you were going to go. And so I would have liked to maybe have a little summary up front. In this speech, I'm going to talk about blah, blah, blah. Because I didn't realize that this was a part one. Maybe that was mentioned up front, but I didn't catch it. It was great that this was an intro, and that part two will be coming along. You had that long pause in the middle, which gave you an opportunity to say something. I am now going to set up a interesting video for you to watch. Anything that would have kept our attention during that long lull, because as I believe you pointed out, and some other people, dead air can be deadly. Okay, I think that, oh, one other thing real quick. I don't know if it's me, but your head is a little low such that it hits the bar of your name. So I would have liked to have seen you kind of raise your head a little bit or even step back a bit. But overall, awesome job. Congratulations on how you transmuted your childhood fantasy into your adult obsession. And I look forward to hearing part 2 next week. Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Lou. And Norman, are you ready to give us your evaluation on Therese?
Yes, I am. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and Therese. First of all, I really enjoyed the speech. You were very animated. I enjoyed your eye contact, your vocal variety, and your use of your slide or your slides, as they were able to guide us. They weren't too busy, and it was really obvious what you were trying to get over to us as we went from the cue, the bell, the reward. We went through that cycle over and over again with obvious examples. I also commend you on taking a risk and opening up the mics so you had audio feedback. That's something that rarely happens in this context, and I think that it was really interesting. It's something that perhaps more of us can explore, actually having the audio feedback during our message, during our speeches. The thing that stood out that might have made it better for me, I kind of got lost between the teeny weeny little practice hooked up to the cue, and I was trying to hook them up. Now, for me, perhaps was me as I was looking at trying to evaluate, but I kept wondering what the significance was of the small practice hooked into developing the habit. But overall, I really enjoyed the speech. I think that it was good, and you did an excellent job in presenting to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Norman. And we are going to right now listen to the rest of the evaluations. Jim Dent, if you will tell us about the ers and filler words.
Okay, thank you. Well, either I didn't hear things or everybody did really good tonight. I heard very few filler words. But I did see some patterns. Rolando, Lou, and David and Norman used some double clutch sounds where you just start a word and repeat it again. Norman had one or two ahs and ums. Other than that, it was pretty clean. David had a long pause with the video. You might want to work on trying to fill that pause. And that was probably setting up the video. Lou probably had the most little quirks. He had a double clutch, which he followed with sorry. And then he had a kind of a drawn out and. He drug it out a little bit, which really made it sound like a filler word. And he started off his statement with okay. So I would say Lou has probably had the most filler type words tonight. Everybody else, anybody else I didn't mention, I didn't hear anything. So back to you.
Thank you, Jim. We do have all the timer reports, and what I did forget to say is please submit your votes to Jim Barber for the evaluations. Our grammarian was Magna. Are you ready to give us your report?
Yes, I am. And I'm going to concentrate on a couple of things. The first one that I want to mention is it's the first time, Jim, that anyone where I've been said that they're going to watch out for the pattern of use. I thought that was really good because usually they would just say Pete, 7 R's or ums or whatever. So I enjoyed that. Tracy, I want to mention something to you as well as to David, that in Toastmasters, you're going to learn this, you're brand new. So it's just something I want you to know from the word go. We are so trained in listening to triads, 3 words that's sort of conveying a meaning, each one a different meaning. And you used passion and purpose, and you could easily add it something like pinpoint precision or something like that to make it a triad. Because what is happening to Toastmasters, and this is not a critique, I'm telling you what's happening in our minds. We hear those two words and then we wait for the third one. So just be aware of it. The same thing to you, David, you obsessed over. You could have added something to that and just give us that little triad that sweeten the deal, and we know, oh, your brain can relax because there's no cognitive dissonance. Therese, you actually had a community speech, so it was really hard for me to pinpoint anything, Therese, so that I could say about your speech. And as far as the word of the day is concerned, the president used it Roger used it, the president used it in the chat box. Tracy used it. She mentioned it also in the chat box. But then we've got a bragger in our midst. And that must be Lois, because she used the word of the day at least 8 times. I am thoroughly impressed, madam. I've never heard a word of the day mentioned that often. So obviously the word touched your heart, and I'm feeling so delighted about that. Lo, you use something quite constantly, I liked. It's almost similar to what other people use as I love this and I love that. But you, I liked 7 times. I like this and I like that. And I really want to ring the bell and say, find another expression instead of I liked. Then Roger, humans and machines, once again, missing a little bit of a triad there. I know when we're talking, we don't think triads. But everyone in this club, I want to say, let's work on those triads, myself included.
3 minutes, Magda.
Okay, my time up?
Yes.
Okay, good. That's it. Thank you.
And our chat monitor was Graham. Graham, if you will give us an overview, please.
We're out of time, and so I'm going to transmute my report into silence.
Thank you. For me, I just want to say that this meeting was absolutely great. I would love to hear how we ended up with the votes. So Jim, if you'll give us our votes.
Yes, Madam Toastmaster, it was really close and I was counting them down to the wire, but the results are in. Our best speaker of the evening was, drum roll please, David. Our best table topics presentation was by Sanjitha, and our best evaluator this evening was Lois.
Thank you. As general evaluator, I just feel like, as always, we always have a great meeting, a fun meeting, and we always learn something, one way or another, either to keep our chin up and above our name tag there, or something tonight, especially about changing and transmuting ourselves. The volume was good, the sound of everyone was really good, and I didn't know that I wasn't muted, and evidently my paper's moving on the desk or something. Thank God somebody went ahead and let me know. But it was a great meeting overall, and I do have to say, Sangeetha, you just spoke eloquently for many women that are married. It's been a fun meeting, and I pass it right back to Jimmy Deb.
Okay, thank you. I want to remind everybody we have a special video editing and sharing program next week, February 4th, which David is giving. So please take a look at the website and tune in for that webinar. We're also having a speech-a-thon on February 7th. So we've already got a lot of speakers signed up, but definitely tune in and keep alert. In case a speaker cancels out, grab that slot as soon as it opens up if anybody cancels. Anybody have any special announcements? Roger.
Jimmy, as a follow-up on the February 7th Speakathon, if you jump onto the website, you'll see that there's at least 1 to 2 more spots for speakers, and I do need some evaluators. So if you're going to join us, go ahead and pick a role and join us that evening.
Ah, good.
And I believe next week in David's special video presentation, we also need, I think, 1 or 2 more roles. So go ahead and go in and pick a role.
Yeah, if I can comment on that for just a moment. I wanted to point out 2 things on the website. If you look at this agenda, there's actually more promotional material up top than there usually is on our agenda. But if you scroll down, yes, there are a couple of, it looks like it's just the timer we're looking for. So I'll need somebody to help keep that on track. Also note that there is this little embedded click to tweet thing here. So if you do Twitter, you can click there and you'll get a little pop-up that gives you a starter message. You can, of course, personalize that. And even if you don't do Twitter, you can copy and paste this into Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever else you use to promote things. One other thing to mention on the website is that down the end of the menu, there is now a button that says Dues Renewal, because we're in that season coming up. And there are actually 2 options. You can either go ahead and just pay, or you can sign up for the subscription option, where your credit card will automatically be billed every 6 months in perpetuity, or until you tell us that you want to cancel that. So if you'd like to put it on autopilot and you plan to be in the club for the long term, that option is there. But either way, between now and the end of March, we need to get people paid off for the next 6 months. Mr.
David,
President.
I would be happy to sign up for timer for next week if you could give me some instructions ahead of time.
Sure.
Okay, then I'll sign up.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's the only thing that held me up, was I didn't know what you wanted. Okay, great.
Keep me honest. That's basically it. Yeah.
It'll never work.
One thing I'd like to say is that Graham put a link in the chat box on about 6 minutes on the rule of 3 speeches, public speaking. So if anyone's interested in that, you can click on that and have it right now.
As always with the chat, by the way, and I'll mention this as chat monitor, and for our guests and newer members, as always with the chat, if you go over to the chat box, there's a more. If you click on that, there's an option that says Save Chat. That will save a copy of everything that's been said in the chat to your hard drive and allow you to go back to that stuff later. Cheers. On that note, it's lunchtime here, and I'm hungry. Bye, y'all. See you next week.
Jimmy, can we hear from our guests?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Good point.
Yes, we want to hear from our guests. First, let's hear from Sangeeta. Is she still here?
Yes.
What do you think of our meeting tonight?
Oh, it was wonderful. In fact, this is my first Toastmaster meeting. I've never been to any brick and mortar Toastmaster before. So it's wonderful, actually. I simply loved it. I look forward to, joining.
I think most of us would probably recommend that you do both, because I think there's different value to the in-person Toastmasters.
Okay.
But I'd love to have you here.
Okay, sure.
And Doug Small.
Thank you, Jimmy. It was a pleasure to be here and in a Toastmasters meeting for the first time in a very long time. I enjoyed the opportunity to see if I still had any kind of table topics medal, but not quite. I'll get there. Thanks so much for reaching out to me, Lois. I really appreciate your help.
My pleasure.
So look forward to seeing you again soon.
Great. And that's all I have tonight. Anybody else have anything they want to say?
I think I'm still a guest. I'm not too sure. I'm still a guest.
Just until Friday, Magda. Just until Friday.
I'm pretty much at home, so really. I just want to say that the grammarian lady that you had today, she was switched on.
Yeah, she was good. Gave us a run for our money. Great job, everyone. Have a good night.
Fun meeting. Have a great week, everybody.
Stay warm.
We'll see everybody next week.
Thanks, everyone.